Hello and welcome everyone. This is Sheikh Bilal Haq in front of you, and in today's class we are going to move forward with the second part of concept of strategy. I'm going to start from where I left in the previous class. So let's start. In the previous class we have gone through the types of external environments, but in today's class I'm going to go through the importance of reasonable prediction. So, whenever we talk about strategy, remember one thing: reasonable prediction or the reasonableness of prediction is something which is of utmost importance. So, it says that the future predictions are essential for a strategy development because they provide the framework for anticipating the potential challenges and opportunities. So, every organization they are going to have some sort of future prediction, and this future prediction is basically helping an organization to structure their future strategies and to identify and cater all those opportunities that fall in between the strategies that we can identify. So, the fourth side helps in aligning the resources effectively, making informed decision and maintaining competitive edge in a rapidly changing environment. So if I have the future resources, if I have the future prediction, if I'm someone who is actually anticipating the future of an organization by doing some reasonable predictions for the company. Now, how we are going to do this reasonable prediction, how we are going to identify the predictions or reasonableness of the prediction, that is something that we are going to discuss in today's class. So the tools that are used for predictions are the trend analysis. This is the first tool that we are going to use it for prediction, and it says that forecasting is the process of estimating the future trend. So firstly we are going to estimate the future trends of the company. We are going to identify the events or conditions that are based on the historic data. For example, in the current scenario, there's a trend being developed that more and more people are buying new phones after every 1 or 2 years. So this means this is something which is very good for the phone industry, as many of the new people that are arriving in this world, they are buying the new phones. So we are going to look at the historic data. We are going to collect the current information, and we'll be using some analytical methods. Now these analytical methods may be the ratio analysis. These analytical method may be building up some graphs in order to identify that on the basis of the historic data, how can an organization move forward with the current scenario, and how can we predict reasonably in the future. So it involves predicting the future outcomes to guide the decision making and strategic planning. So in this way, we are going to predict the future outcome. Okay. So the phone industry is flourishing. This means that more and more people are going to buy new phones. Now I just need to know the average ratio of a person who is going to buy a new phone in my economy. Let's suppose the average ratio is, let's suppose it's 1. After 1.5 years. On average, every individual is going to change their phone to a new one. So this means that the demand for the new phone is not on the basis of the population of the economy, but on the basis of how much recurringly are they willing to purchase their phones. So this is going to be the trend analysis. Then we are also going to move forward with the scenario building or scenario planning. So what actually is scenario building or scenario planning? So scenario planning, this method involves creating and analyzing the different future scenarios to prepare for various possible outcomes. So we are going to make more than one scenarios. Let's suppose if I say that if I'm investing an amount of money in, let's suppose $50 million in marketing. So I'm going to build up some scenarios. Let's suppose if I say that situation A says that there are 100% chances that we will make around $200 million in a year after investing this 50 million in marketing. Scenario B says that there are 50% chances that we will make 150 million, and scenario C says that there are 30% chances that we will only be able to make 30 million. So what we are going to do, we are going to multiply this 100 million by 100%, 200 million by 100%. So this is going to give us 200, and if we multiply this, so we will get 75, and if we multiply this, so we will get 9 million. So we are going to bring up with an expected value of what this marketing cost may have an expected revenue in the upcoming year. So this is how we are going to build up the scenario. It says these are essential for the decision making, as it is often said that we should think out of the box. So we should think out of the box. So if we are thinking out of the box, this means we are planning in some way or the other in order to incorporate the scenario building within our company. But what it basically means is that we should have such a mindset where the ideas of future possible outcomes or event which have not yet occurred are encouraged and are implemented as well. Multiple scenarios are built in condition of high uncertainties, so that all the possible outcomes are reviewed. So you're going to build up with multiple scenario. As I said that I build up a scenario of A in which I'm expecting 100% return of 200 million. So this means that this is scenario number one. In scenario number two, we are expecting a 50% chance that we are going to end up having 150 million sales. And in scenario number three, there are 30% chances that we are going to have 30% sales. So I calculated an estimated value by multiplying the percentage of the expectation towards the expected revenue that we are going to achieve at the end of the day. So this is how we are going to build up the expected value for the company, and on the basis of this expected value, we can plan ahead that if we should have an investment being done in this specific marketing area or not. Then another main method of doing the prediction is having a machine learning algorithm. So machine learning algorithm is basically identifying that how well your machine is going to yell in with the human resources and the other resources that we have available in our businesses. So this method basically involves the neutral alignment or the neural network decision trees clustering can analyze the last database and identifying the complex patterns to make prediction. So as I always tell in my class that the Apple company, they identified a data that before launching 17 Pro, they identified their database, and there was an interview in which someone asked the Apple company CEO that why is it the case that you keep on increasing the quality of your camera? Why don't you focus on other features as well? So the CEO of the company said that in a span of 1 year, we have identified 1 billion selfie photos being taken by the Apple company users. And how did we identify this is because all these 1 billion selfie photos were basically saved on the iCloud. So what we believe is that majority of the people who are buying the Apple devices, they are buying it for taking their pictures and creating their memories. So for this reason, we are upgrading the selfie camera as much as possible, and this is the reason why Apple company is doing a superb form of trend analysis, and they know how on the basis of the historic data, how their predictions are going to help them in formulating the future part or the future of the organization. So this is how it works. Then we need to go through the environmental analysis. Now, what's an environmental analysis? As I've already told you that there are two areas of the environmental analysis. We normally analyze the environment on the basis of the macroeconomic side, that is the country-wide analysis, for which we are basically using the PESTEL model, that is political, economical, social, technological, ecological, and legal factor. So it says every business must analyze its environment as it is imperative for the long-term success of the strategy. As there are two types of environment in which the business is currently operating, both these environment can be analyzed and following two method can be used. So when you are analyzing the environment on the basis of the overall strategy on the macroeconomic perspective, so remember that the environment is going to be the PESTEL analysis, and when you are analyzing the environment on the basis of the industry-wide analysis, so this is going to be the Porter 5 force analysis. Now, my question over here arises is that what is the purpose of having a strategic analysis? Why do we actually want to have a strategic analysis? So the main purpose of strategic analysis is to assess the company's internal strength and weakness. See, whenever I talk about the SWOT area, so SWOT area, there are two things that are included in the SWOT analysis. And out of these two things, the first area is the strength and the weakness. Remember, the strength and the weakness, it actually relates to the internal area. However, if I talk about the other two part, the opportunities and threat, this is basically something that relates to the external part. So the strength and the weakness is something that relates to the internal part, and the external opportunities and threat are something that relates to the external part. So it helps in making the informed decisions and optimizing the use of the resources. So now what are the resources that we have in our hand? So strategic analysis try to find the answer to three key questions. Now these are the very important key questions that we need to keep in our mind. Where is the business now? So first question that we are going to answer is, where is the business currently standing? Where is the business now? How might the business be affected by what is happening or likely to happen? So we are going to identify, okay, where am I standing right now? What are the factors that are going to affect the business? Maybe internal factors, maybe external factors, but there might be some factors that are going to have a negative or a positive impact on the overall business and its environment. Then, how could the business respond to these likely changes? For example, if there's a change in the legal regulation, if there is a change in the external environment, if there's a change in trend, if there's a change in taste, if there's a change in fashion, each and every day there are cultural changes, there are changes in the fashion, there are changes in any sort of industry. Each and every change will have an impact on the organization and its environment, and they will have an impact on the overall demand and its related support mechanism. So what we need to do when we are analyzing the overall environment, we need to answer three different questions. Where is the company standing right now? What are the factors that are going to have an effect on the business? Maybe they are external factors or the internal factors, and how are you going to cope up with the changes or the required changes of these factors? So firstly, we are going to move forward with the pestle analysis, and this is basically an analysis of the topic that I'm going to discuss with you all today. So in the pestle analysis, sorry, in the pestle analysis, there are different areas. For example, we have the political, economical, social, legal, technological, and ecological factor. So in totality, there are six different parts. So pestle, it includes the government regulation. Remember, it includes the government regulation, because majority of time when you are actually answering this question in the examination, people are a bit confused about the political and the legal factor. But remember, these two factors means two different things, although they can be interchangeably connected, although they cannot work in isolation, but there are two different things that relates to these factors. So the first thing is, it includes the government regulation or any defined. So first, government regulations or any defined rules for that particular industry or business. For example, if I'm working in a steel sector, so in steel sector there is a quality check that the government always want us to apply, and this was basically presented by the last regime. So we always have to provide a quality check certification when we are producing a particular batch, and we have to submit it to the government authorities. So this is something that relates particularly to our industry, and particularly from a particular government, from a regime, or from a lawmaking authority. So that is not something that relates to the political factor. But if I look at the legal factor, so legal regulation that the company must abide with, for example, minimum wage legislation, the taxation amount, the corporate taxation, the environmental laws, the labor laws. So all those laws and regulations that are particularly applying to the company or the industry, that is going to be the legal factor. Moving forward, if I talk about the economic factor, so it gauges the economic environment, the creation of the job opportunities, reduction of the unemployment. How are you going to create the GDP? How are you going to contribute towards the GDP of the economy? What economic factors can help us in formulating a good strategy? By studying the factors in the macro environment or economy, such as interest rates. So you're going to study about the interest rate, you're going to study about the economic growth, exchange rate, as well as the inflation rate. So these are all those factors that actually is something that is prevalent in an economy. Higher it's the interest rate, or it's the economic growth, the percentage of normally the SBL examiner, he normally sometimes give you the percentage of the economic growth. He may give you the interest rates in the economy. He may give you provide you with some sort of exchange rates as well, some sort of inflation rates as well. So all these factors are combiningly they're going to have an impact on the overall economy. And remember one thing, that any impact on the economy is something that is directly proportional to having an impact on the overall business and its environment. So as I've said, environment. So let's move towards the environmental part. The effect of weather and the climate change on the business. So if there's a impact because of the environment. For example, the pollution might have a negative impact on the environment. Culture, the environmental change may have an impact on the demand for a particular business. For example, ice cream is more loved in summer than in winter, and the soup, the lentil soup or other type of soups, they are more liked in the winter as compared to summer. Then, if I look at the social factors, so it includes the study of the demographics as well as the target audience, the factors that help in gauging the potential size of the market. So, how are you going to gauge the potential size of the market? For example, if I'm living in a northern area where the weather is quite extreme, that is, it's quite cold throughout the year, so the demand for the air conditioners is going to be zero. However, the demand for the heaters is going to substantially increase. So this is something that relates to the social factor. And if I move towards the technological factor, so it says that it involves understanding the factor which are related to the technological advancement and the rate of technological obsolescence. So in a particular industry, for example, if I talk about the steel sector, the technological factor relates to how fast you are going to produce the batches of the steel that you are producing in your factory, how well the equipped the factory is, the machinery and its learning, the synchronization of the machinery along with the human resources who are actually running that machine. So that these are all the technological factors that is going to help you in formulating some good strategies for your company. So let's just quickly move towards the pestle analysis, and let's see how each and every part is actually divided in your examination. So if I talk about the political factor, the political factors involve analyzing the government policies, political stability, tax policies, trade tariff regulations. See, for example, in the scenario I've seen 2-3 times that the examiner gives you a scenario that says that there's a collision government that is not going to last for many for its entire term. So this means that if there's a collision government and it is expected that it is not going to last for the entire term, this is going to have a negative impact on the business, because any political point that is being created by that political environment or by that political regime will have a negative effect on your business as well. So, and regulation that can have a negative effect on the business. Changes in the government or political movement can lead to a new regulation, shift in the trade policies, or even conflict, all of which may have an impact on how the company operates. For example, stricter labor laws. So this is a very important example. If the labor laws are quite strict, if the trade restriction between the economy, for example, in my economy, there's a trade restriction that we cannot import cars that are older than 5 years. So this means that we are trying to promote the local industry to make their own Pakistan assembled cars and increase the cost of the business. So this is going to have a negative impact on the businesses as well. But if I look at the economic factors, so what are the economic factors? So in the economic factors, the focus is on the broader economic condition. For example, the inflation rate, the interest rate, exchange rate, economic growth. So majority of time there are going to be 4 factors: the inflation, the interest rate, the exchange rate, and the economic growth. These variables can influence the consumer spending, the demand for the product, and the business profitability. For instance, during a recession, consumer spending tends to decrease, which can lower the demand for the luxury goods and services, impacting the industry that depends on the discretionary spending. So this is something that depends upon how many of people in the economy are spending much and much amount in the luxury factor, and how many people of the economy are spending on the necessity side. If there are people who are spending on the luxury, this means that they are very well versed in the necessity side. So the necessity business is obviously it is going to flourish, but the luxury business also have a very fair chance of having the growth in this company, in this industry. Then if I talk about the social factor, again the social factor pertains to the cultural trend. For example, the festivals. Again, festivals brings lots and lots of business within an economy. The demographics, if we are living in the mountainous areas, the lifestyle changes is going to occur, the educational level, population growth. China will have a very different demand as compared to Philippines or Australia. In Australia, the total population is very less, but in China, the population is extremely high. So China will have a very different demand. The businesses in China, they have got intense amount of competition, but they've got intense amount of opportunities as well in order to flourish and grow. So social trends can significantly impact the consumer behavior preferences, demand for the product and services. For example, as health consciousness increases, there is a rising demand for organic food and wellness related products. If I move towards the technological factor, it says factors that refers to innovation. So if your company is a tech oriented company, if your company is a company that have technology based factors incorporated, so this is something that relates to innovation, advancement, pace of technology change. Companies need to monitor the technology trend to remain competitive, as new technologies can disrupt the entire industries or provide opportunities for growth. For instances, business in sectors such as e-commerce, artificial intelligence must stay up to date with the latest technological advancement to maintain the edge in the market. Mobile phone industry, laptop industry, software-based industry, technology-based industry should have a department that is 24/7 on their toes doing research and development in order to incorporate better and better technology in the highly technological world in order to cope up with the area of obsolescence. Ecological factors, as I say, these are the factors that are, you must be quite aware of these factors. So environmental factors focus on ecological and environmental aspects like climate change, sustainability, environmental regulation. Companies are increasingly expected to adopt environmentally friendly practices, and those that fail to do so may face some regulatory penalties or negative public perception. For example, industries that heavily rely on the natural resources, such as the manufacturing of agriculture, are significantly impacted by the environmental regulation or changes in the wealth pattern. For example, to reduce the use of paper in educational institute, now we have moved towards the online lectures. Now we have moved towards providing PDF to our students. So this is something which is innovation, and we are helping the ecological side as well. We are doing a superb job in this. Yes. So legal factors. Let's move towards the last part of the today's topic. Legal factors involve the laws and regulations that affect the business, including the labor laws, consumer protection laws, health and safety related laws, intellectual property laws. Compliances with these laws are critical for the business, as legal violation can lead to financial penalties. If you are doing some legal violation, you are going to have penalties, and it is not just the monetary penalties, it is the goodwill as well that is going to be deteriorated at the end of the day. Student personal and educational data is to be kept confidential, and this data is something that you're going to use only for the purpose of education. I hope so. If you like this video, for next part, stay tuned, stay updated.